Hi, so today's vlog is all about my experiences of trying out trousers in a different shape from the ones that I'm used to, which tend to be kind of fairly straight leg or boot cut jeans, really, on the whole. Um, so I'm talking about trousers that have got a wider silhouette, so either long, straight, wide leg trousers or barrel shaped trousers. And I've always been a bit nervous of trying these kinds of styles. And that's for a number of reasons. I've always been a bit worried that they might wear me rather than me wearing them. I've been worried about the fact that because I'm pear shaped anyway, wearing anything that's wider below my waist might just accentuate that and just make me feel self-conscious. So that's been another reason. Um, I worry about whether I'll trip over because on really wide leg trousers, there's obviously a lot more fabric. So I have been a bit worried that I might just trip over, face plant and look ridiculous. I've worried that they might look a bit old fashioned, like a throwback to the 1970s, though I grew up in the 70s, born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s and loved it as a decade, but I was worried I might feel a bit too retro in them. So yeah, so the reasons go on, and until now I've never done it. But I decided that I was going to be brave and I was going to go and give this a go. So I've made two pairs of trousers. One is a wide leg and the other one is a barrel leg pair. And today I'm going to talk you through the patterns and the fabrics I used and give you my verdict. Should I have avoided them for so long, or was I right and should I carry on avoiding them? So I've got my trusty notebook because I didn't want to forget anything. So I wanted to try a straight wide leg trouser. So the lovely the new Red, who is no longer trading, she's still on Instagram as Never Not Amy, so I'll link her down below. She designed some wide leg trousers called the Frankie pants, and when she had her closing down sale I bought these together with the Roxy top, which I did a vlog on, so I'll link down below. I've already vlogged about that one, and I bought the Frankie pants at the same time. So I decided I would give those a go. So as I've mentioned, you can't get them anymore because Amy's not trading. However, I have had a look on the Fold line, and there is a pattern by the designer made by Ray called the Rose Pants, which is a similar kind of overall design, I would say. So it's got slash pockets, it's got a flat waistband at the front, and you can do either pleats or gathering. The pants I've made are gathering, but it would be easy enough to substitute pleats, and an elasticated waistband at the back. So I will link to that pattern down below, so that you've got, if you like what you see with the Frankie pants, that might be a good starting point. You might want to make the legs a bit wider. But anyway, I'll pop a line drawing in of the Frankie pants so you can see what we're talking about. But essentially they have front inseam pockets, and they have, as I've said, gathering under the waistband at the front, at the sides. But the waistband at the front is flat, and then it's an elasticated waistband at the back. And that appealed to me because I've always been a bit nervous about elasticated waistbands as well. So elasticated waistband, wide leg, what could possibly go wrong? So what fabric was I going to make it in? Well, originally I wanted to make this in a duvet cover that I'd got, which has got lots of countries written all over it, which I bought in a charity shop. But when I tried to lay it out on the pattern, I didn't have enough fabric because I think it's only I think it's a double duvet, and the reverse doesn't have the wording on, so I didn't have enough. So I've been casting around for something to make it in, didn't want to make it in anything too precious. And then I went on holiday on my cruise. And while I was away, I was popping in and out of fabric shops, went into fabric shops in Tenerife and also in La Palma in the Canary Islands. Didn't see anything that I particularly liked, which wasn't super expensive. And then our very last stop was Lisbon. And we were sitting in a town square having had crepe for lunch and in the city centre. And I kind of said, oh, there's a fabric shop somewhere near here. I ought to try and find it. Literally look left and there it was. So I thought, right, I'm off. So I left husband sitting on the bench and off I went to the fabric shop. And when I was in there, my eye was caught by this. And you can see this is actually one of the remnant pieces that I've cut the trousers out of. And this was in the remnants bin, and I pulled out about 5 pieces of it, all of which were probably about a metre, maybe a bit longer than a metre. And so when it came to cutting the trousers out, which I did on the Suffolk sewing retreat I went on where I made the tops, I couldn't cut out the trouser pieces down the grain. I had to flip it and cut it cross grain, which is obviously fine on a woven fabric, because I couldn't have fitted it on anyway. But you can see it's really loud. So yeah, worry number 1, the trousers might wear me. Well, anyway, I kind of decided I was going to give it a go. Now this is, it's got a fair bit of structure. I actually thought it was a cotton poplin until I was sewing up the trousers and inadvertently melted a little bit on the back seam, which mercifully you can't see. And I think it's probably a polycotton mix. So it's got a bit of structure, but not so much that the trousers stick out like a ramrod. So that is what I went for these trousers. So let me talk a little bit more about the trousers. So the Made by Ray Rose pants, which I mentioned earlier, has actually got a better size range than the Frankie pants, because that goes from a hip of 34.5 up to 59 inch. So that's a pretty good size range. In the Frankie pants, I made a straight size 14 with no moderations, and that was for a 32 to 34 inch waist, and mine does kind of fluctuate around that, and a 42 to 44 inch hip. And again, I kind of fluctuate around, but the widest part of my body is definitely probably about 43 and a half, sometimes a bit bigger, maybe sometimes a bit smaller, but yeah, so that's what I went with. And I really enjoyed sewing these up. So I won't spend too much time talking about the construction, because obviously if you can't get the pattern anymore, there's not a whole lot of point in me going through it in huge amounts of detail. But what I did like was it had a summary of the next step. I'm really sorry I keep knocking the camera with my notebook. It had a summary of what to do next if you were advanced, and then it had a breakdown which took it more slowly if you were less experienced. And actually I learned some useful things which I can take forward into sewing other things. One thing that was quite interesting, I've got the trousers here, I'm not wearing them so I can show you inside and show you them, was that it's got this, you can see you've got the waistband. So there's the waistband if you can see it. I'll show you the label in a minute. So you've got the inseam pockets, and then at the front you've got this gathering which you put nearer the pockets at the side, leaving the centre waistband pretty flat. And then at the back it's got elastic in. And it had really good instructions for doing that. But what's quite interesting is actually that on a lot of waistbands I see, you attach the 2 bits, the waistband and the trousers, right sides together, and then you flip them over and you sew down the waistband inside the trousers, and this one was different. You did it actually the other way around. So what you'd done was you'd folded up a little bit of the waistband, flipped it round and stitched it down, top stitched it down on the outside. The bit I found difficult on this was that you sew round to about maybe a centimetre or so along the front, and then you stop, and then you put the elastic in. So it's 2.5 centimetre depth elastic. And when I was trying to adjust it, I kept losing the safety pin with the elastic attached. So I should have pinned it down more thoroughly. So lesson learned, if I make anything like this again, or make these again, which I'm sure I will, and I will come back to that in a minute. We take some time for my label. If you can see that, which says, "I was not made to be subtle." And I thought, well, you know, if they're going to wear me, I might as well say it. So yeah, I thought it was quite an appropriate label. So it all went in really well, and it has you stitching down the elastic through the middle so it doesn't twist. So it's all nice and secure. And they were pretty much the right length. I did just turn them up. It said 1 centimetre hem on the bottom, and I turned them up like that. They are quite long, but they're fine. I have to be a little bit careful going upstairs so I don't face plant. So that was the first pair of trousers I made. I'm going to show you them at the end so we can do a bit of a compare and contrast with the barrel leg trousers I made. So hold on to the end and there'll be some footage of me wearing these. But yeah, suffice to say, I wish she wasn't in retirement because I really like her patterns. So there's a hint. So that was the first pattern. So that was the straight wide leg trousers, if you like. And then the other pattern that I've got that I decided I would start on is the Pattern Emporium Making Moves pants. And these are, they are barrel leg, but they're not a hugely wide barrel. Again, I'll put a line drawings in so you can see, so that you don't end up with something that's super curved out and then tapering in really tightly. It's a much more gentle shape than that. And I thought that might be quite a nice one to start with so that I can see if I like the shape and how I feel about it. I had held barrel legs up to me in shops and thought it was probably fine. But yeah, I thought let's give it a go like that. And for these, I actually had been to, this was before I went on holiday actually, but I didn't have time to get them sewn up. I went with this, which is a linen viscose blend, and I think you can get it online. If you can still get it, I will link it below, but it comes from Koala Fabrics in Chipping Sodbury, which is not a million miles from me, and I've got a friend who lives quite close to there, so I bought it when I went over to meet her. So that was the fabric I got for that. So obviously the fabric I got in Portugal, I got about 5 meters in different bits of remnant for about €20. This was more expensive, but I was kind of cheered by the time I cut it out by the fact that if I compared my measurements on this pattern to the measurements on the Frankie pants, it put me in a size 14 again. And the Making Moves pants do say, if you have got a reasonably flat butt and you come at the bottom of one set of sizing, and arguably I might have been near the 16 on a hip, to size down rather than sizing up. And certainly for me, I am pear-shaped, as I said, but the bulk of my measurement is across on my hips. It's not front and back, it's at the sides. So I stuck with the 14. So that was a waist of 31.5 to 33 and a hip of 41 3/8 to 43, and that was fine. Overall, the pattern goes from a hip of 31.5 to 58 3/4, which is great because that's really nice and inclusive, I think. So that's how I picked my size, and I made the trousers with no real moderation. So you could, if you were shorter, there was a short length and then a medium length and a longer length. And you need to be careful because there's kind of typos about the leg length on the bottom. So it talks about making a size, I think it talks about a size 2 when it meant a size 3 or something. So you just need to be careful. And there is a Facebook group for Pattern Emporium, so do go and check if you're unsure about any of the construction of this, if you decide to make them. The other issue that I know, say Sam Sequin Girly had, and I'll link her vlog about these trousers and other trousers that she's made below, was that you can choose on the trousers not to have a back seam. So you can choose just to have, put the side back and the back, if you like, together and overlap them and cut out the back seam. And I decided, because I knew Sam had raised issues about how that works, and I know it has been solved on Facebook, but I decided first time I was going to make it, I was just going to do it with the back seam. So that didn't impact me, but I do know that there have been answers, I think, on the Facebook group about that. But I made the trouser legs in 3 pieces, and I'll show you that in a second. So there's a front, a side, back, and then the main back bit. And I put on the pockets at the front, the inseam pockets, and I put back pockets on so I can put my phone in them. But you could also do a cargo style pocket somewhere around the knee, and I chose not to do that because I felt in this fabric it probably would look a bit odd, and I thought for a first time out I'm not going to do that. I cut it to match the tallest height, which is meant to be for somebody who's 5'7". I'm more like 5'5.5", and the middle size was for somebody of 5'5". But I decided I was going to cut it long, and then I could always take it off if I wanted to. And there is really good guidance in the instructions about how, if you cut to too long a length, if you just lop, you know, however many centimeters or inches off the bottom of the leg, you could lose some of the barrel. But there's guidance about how you can then amend the pattern, and just take bits out of the leg to get the barrel shape back. So I decided it was worth the risk. And actually, when I tried them on, I finished them yesterday, tried them on, and they just sit nicely over the top of my foot. And I put them on with some flat sandals, which is about the lowest thing I'm ever going to wear them with, and they are absolutely fine. And I think that might be because, although, you know, I'm only 5'5.5" ish, I have got long legs, so I think it probably paid off just to leave them as they are. And if I made them again, I would do the same again. I don't see that I need to make them any shorter, so it was fine. I made the high-rise version. You can do a high-rise or a mid-rise, and I went with the high-rise version, and they do pretty much just sit on my waist, so I found that absolutely fine. The only other change I made was it gives you 2 versions of the waistband. So when you cut the pattern piece out, it shows a line for you to cut it off at if you're going to use narrower elastic, which is 2.5 centimeters, and a larger waistband, which is the whole piece, which you use if you're going to use 4 centimeter elastic. And then you fold it over and you leave a gap of 2.5 centimeters to put the elastic in. And that seems to be irrespective of what size of elastic you use. And actually, by the time you've folded the waistband over, let me just grab the trousers and I will show you. You put the elastic in at the back, and that roughly, that is about 2.5 centimeters. So there wouldn't be much space anyway. To get 4 centimeters in, it would be virtually half the waistband when it's folded over. Let's just show you this label. This was a gift from the lovely Mandy Make It So, and it just says cat person with the little cat on it. And then on the other side, there is a little sewing machine. Hopefully you can see it. And I started these trousers on a weekend long weekend away with Mandy in Lincolnshire. So I thought I would put that in, so I've always got a reminder. So what I did, I made the waistband for the wider elastic, but then when I started threading the wider elastic through, I really didn't like the way it bunched up. It just felt really thick and it was trying to curl over all the time. And I just thought, no, I'm going to go with the 2.5 centimetre elastic, which is what I'd used in the Frankie pants. And actually, I'll just show you, I think it's worked out fine. And what it suggests you do is put the elastic in, pin it at each of the side seams, which are there, and then have a look, try them on and see if you like the way the elastic and the gathers that the elastic causes are sitting. So what I did was, that's the front, I pushed most of them to the back because I quite like the flat-fronted nature of the Frankie pants. So I just thought that would work better for me. But these went together really, really nicely. I got my seam ripper out, I think once, apart from sewing the waistband when I didn't sew the gathers in terribly neatly, but that was my fault, not the pattern. And all I'd done was I'd attached the wrong side of, I think it was the side leg to the back leg. So I'd ended up with what looked like two left legs, but I fixed it really quickly. But the fabric was great to sew with, really behaved itself. Lots of really good pattern instructions about how to get a good top stitch and a good edge stitch, and huge amounts of detail about things like when you overlock this, overlock it with say the front piece upwards, so that when you turn your overlocking over and press it down to press the seam to the back, it's going to naturally go that way. So I kept thinking, I must write all these down and kind of stick them on my wall, because clearly that kind of information is generic, so it's always useful. So love the pattern instructions. Definitely would like to make another Pattern Emporium pattern from the perspective of how good the instructions are. And I do actually already have the Walk Boldly pants, which I've not made yet, but I have got them, so looking forward to trying those for the winter. So I think that was, yeah, I think that was the only things that I wanted to actually say about the construction of these trousers. One thing I did do when I was putting the elastic in, which I wish I'd done on these, for these I put in pretty much the amount of elastic that was recommended. I did put it on and try it, but it did come out more or less exactly what was recommended for the size 14, which is a 42 centimetre piece. I wish in hindsight that I had put in maybe 43.5, 44, not because I need it in terms of it sitting around my waist, and I can't, but because of when I take them off and I get them over my hips, if it's coolish, it's absolutely fine. I can get them on and off, no problem. But here in the UK, we are in the middle of our second heat wave, and this heat wave isn't quite as bad as the previous one, which is when I first finished these. And getting them on and off when I'm hot and sweaty, and the fact that it might be a poly mix, was a lot harder. So I wish I'd just put a little bit more elastic in to give myself that leeway. And so I was quite careful when I put the elastic in these. And actually, yes, I've got plenty of room. It's absolutely fine. So very pleased with how that turned out. So what's the verdict? Did I like them? Did I hate them? Well, let me put up side by side, hopefully, pictures of me twirling about in both of them, so you can see what you think too. And I would say I love them, absolutely love them. I think my favourite are probably the wide leg rather than the barrel leg, but I would make the mind, I want to keep wanting to call it Mind the Maker, the making moves again. I think one of the reasons that I like the wide leg better is, other than the fact they're wide, they don't seem like a completely different silhouette. It's like wearing a long skirt or a long dress almost. In fact, I've got a photo somewhere of me kind of pulling out the legs so you can see how wide they are. But it doesn't feel like a really strange silhouette overall, whereas the barrel leg is very definitely different. The other thing, which is ironic given the relative prices of the fabric, I like the colour of these. And actually, you'll see in the photos, because my husband took the photos earlier today, that I've got them paired up with this blouse, which is the Avid Seamstress blouse that I made in collaboration with the lovely Mandy from Make It So. And they look much better with the blouse than they did when I just stuck them on last night wearing, a sort of scruffy old t-shirt. So when they're styled, they do look a lot better. So I like the colour. There's two things that annoy me. One is, even though it's a viscose linen blend, it creases like mad. And that kind of irritates me, and it's why I've tended to steer clear of linen, although I have got some from a swaps table which I really ought to use or pass on to another swaps table. But I find it kind of irritates me because I know it's supposed to be part of the linen look. But before I started filming this, was sitting with my legs crossed, writing my notes to make this vlog, and they just creased. It does seem to drop out quite quickly, but it does frustrate me. And the other thing is a sensory thing, that they've got they're slightly textured. You can see they're this sort of slubby texture, and it feels slightly itchy. Not so bad that I want to, take them off the minute I've put them on. And I suspect once they've been through a few washes, hopefully they'll be a bit softer. But the other trousers, I actually prefer the feel of them on me until it gets really, really hot. And then, yes, you can tell that they're not completely cotton. But I like the way these feel, probably better. And they don't crease as appallingly, which should also have given me the clue that they're not pure cotton. So, yes, so I do like them both. Why did I wait so long? I don't feel like I'm going to face plant. I have been known, when I've got the wide leg trousers on, just to lift them up very slightly if I'm going upstairs. But again, no worse than wearing a long maxi skirt, so seems fine. So yeah, that's the verdict. I like them and I would do them again. And so what's my advice? What would I leave you with as my final thoughts? I think if you're hesitant, there's a number of things you can do. One is you can do what I did in terms of the wide legs, which I actually expected to like less than the barrel leg. Try them in a cheaper fabric first. And I would say, but still try them in a fabric that you really like, because I do really like that fabric, cheap though it was. And so I really wanted to wear it. So that would be my first piece of advice. And my second piece is, maybe if you are completely uncertain, go into a shop, go into a clothes store and try the style on that is similar to what you want to make before you take the plunge. And then I think you'll have a better sense of, for example, do you want a really wide barrel? Do you want a narrower barrel? Do you just utterly dislike it? Is it that if you put the cargo pants on it, you'll like it more, not the cargo pants, the pockets, you'll like it more or you'll like it less? So I think that's what I would say. Do your homework, read some reviews. There are other vlogs about the Making Moves pants, certainly. So Sam has done a vlog where she compares them to a couple of other patterns. And my cosmic twin Tina has also done one. And she is bobbing along nicely. So I'll link both of them down below. But yeah, I have been really amazed, and there will definitely be more. So I think for the barrel leg ones, I need to find some plain fabric that doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. So I need to have a look around. If you've got any recommendations, please let me know. I think what I want to do is do maybe something like a plain navy pair and another kind of darkish colour, maybe red even. Yeah, bright red I would probably happily go for, or something like a deepish burgundy, maybe even a black. But because we've got cats, black fabric and cats doesn't always go that well. I already know what I'm going to make the Frankie pants in next, so I will just grab that because I can see it. Oops. And it's this. It's the Kaffe Fassett fabric. I think it's a cotton sateen, but it's pretty drapey. And I've got a ton of this, so I can make, I could probably make several pairs of Frankie pants, but that would be silly. But I bet I could make the Frankie pants and probably a top so that I could wear them either as a kind of faux jumpsuit or just make something else with, you know, wear it with something else. So that is going to be a pair of Frankie pants because I'm now happy with the pattern. I had been going to make a pair of the Stylark Theas, which are also wide leg, but I'm a bit nervous about the paper bag waist. I'm not sure I'm feeling it. So, but I should maybe take my own advice and try, but not in this fabric because I love it too much. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know, are there any silhouettes that you have been nervous about and then loved, or anything that you thought you would love and then hated? I'd really like to hear from you, so please do let me know in the comments down below. I am more or less now caught up on comments. And also I want to say a big hello to all my lovely new subscribers who I suspect came over either because of the lovely Diane in Stitches who mentioned me in a vlog, or I know Kate from Ripper Seams linked all the other sewists who'd been on the Suffolk Social in her vlog, so it may be that some of you have come over. It's lovely to have you along. I really hope you enjoy the content. Please leave me a like if you are enjoying it and let me know what else you would like to see on my channel. That's pretty much all I've sewn at the moment. I've got another garment cut out, which is the chalk and notch Rivy shirt, but I'm not going to show you that until I've done it. But let's just say I'm making it from remnants, and if you've been watching me long enough, you've seen the garments that have used the fabrics before. So yeah, but I think that might be quite fun. But I definitely need to do some cutting out, so I'll come back very soon with the sewing plans vlog. So once I'm a bit more sorted, I will do a tour of my sewing room and show you a little bit about how I've been trying to overcome sewing overwhelm with varying degrees of success. So yeah, make some plans, tour of sewing room and overwhelm, and I've got something else. Oh, getting my colours done. I'll talk to you a little bit about that, and we'll have a look at my stash in the light of what was said. And I've got another one, which is a bit of an oddball, but we'll leave that for another time. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon. I hope you're getting some sewing done, but far more importantly, if you are somewhere that is really hot, I hope you're taking care of yourself and drinking lots of water. See you soon. Bye for now.